One day, after telling her husband her secret, Vivian Vance passed away brutally and without warning. On July 26, 1909, Vivian Vance was born in Cherry, Kansas, as Vivian Ribera Jones. Vivian's artistic aspirations were not always supported because she grew up in a traditional home. Her mother, a devoutly pious woman, disapproved of her daughter's aspirations to perform on stage because she thought that a young woman should not pursue a career in show business. However, Vivian's love for acting was too intense to put out. She took involved in local productions as a teenager and discovered that performing was her calling. She left home to pursue a career in acting after graduating from high school, taking on the stage name Vivian Vance. For a young woman at the time, particularly one from a conservative Kansas family, it was a daring and defiant act, but it also signaled the start of a life that would encourage many others to pursue their goals in the face of adversity. During the 1930s and 1940s, Vance developed her acting skills by participating in Broadway productions and becoming a proficient comedy actor. She received praise from critics for her vibrant presence and powerful vocals while appearing in programs like Music in the Air and Skylark. She learned how to command an audience's attention in addition to the technical parts of performance during her years in the theater. She would subsequently benefit greatly from these experiences when she had her major breakthrough on television, a medium that was still in its infancy. She had her breakthrough in 1951 when Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball cast her as I Love Lucy's Ethel Mertz. Her life would be irrevocably altered by the part. One of television's most recognizable characters is Ethel, Lucy Ricardo's devoted, funny, and down-to-earth best friend. There was no denying Vance and Ball's chemistry. They formed a humorous team whose friendliness and antics enthralled millions of people on screen. Lucy's crazy energy was counterbalanced by Vance's witty humor and realistic portrayal of Ethel, resulting in one of the most cherished collaborations in television history. Their laughter was contagious, their friendship plausible, and their comedic timing flawless. However, Vance encountered difficulties behind the scenes that put her fortitude to the test. Despite their sincere love for one another, professional demands and the show's immense success occasionally caused tension in her relationship with Lucille Ball. Vance also struggled with self-esteem and image issues, particularly because, while being only 2 years Ball's senior, she was frequently dressed and styled to appear older and less attractive. In addition, she had a very chilly relationship with William Froehlich, who portrayed her husband, Fred Mertz. Vance found it hard to conceal her discomfort with his drinking habits, while Froehlich, who was considerably older and rougher, apparently disliked Vance's concerns about playing his wife. The two created some of the most memorable comedy moments ever seen on television in spite of this conflict, which is a credit to their skill and expertise. Following the conclusion of I Love Lucy, Vance and Lucille Ball remained close collaborators on later ventures, such as Here's Lucy and The Lucy Show. Their friendship had developed into one of enduring love and respect for one another. Ball frequently gave Vance credit off-screen for enhancing her roles and being the ideal comic companion. Despite her desire to expand her horizons and become more than just Ethel Mertz, Vance remained appreciative of the chance the show had provided her. Her subsequent appearances on television and in theater showed her range as an actress and her capacity to engage viewers in both serious and humorous parts. A string of marriages during Vivian Vance's personal life provided insight into her quest for emotional fulfillment, security, and friendship under the demands of her job and celebrity. She went through the entire spectrum of human relationships throughout the years, from the thrill of first love to the heartache of divorce to the calm of a long-term partnership. Each of her 4 marriages had a distinct narrative that reflected Vivian's personal development as well as the shifting times. From a driven young actress who was trying to figure out who she was, to an adult who had figured out how to strike a balance between her personal and professional pleasure. In 1928, Vivian married her first husband, Joseph Shearer Danick Jr. She was an ambitious young woman at the time who was just starting out in the theater industry and still figuring things out. In her early 20s, Vivian may have taken solace in the security and sense of normalcy that Joseph, a businessman, represented. But the union didn't last long. Vivian became more and more enmeshed in the entertainment industry as her love for acting increased. A life of touring, rehearsing, and spending long evenings on stage. According to reports, Joseph found it difficult to comprehend her love of the theater, and their growing separation made it hard to reconcile. A trend in Vivian's life began when their marriage terminated in divorce in 1931. Although she was very proud of her job, it frequently came at the expense of her interpersonal ties. Vivian married fellow performer and musician George Coe in 1934, 3 years later. Shared artistic interests and an awareness of the erratic nature of the entertainment industry characterized their marriage. As Vivian proceeded to develop her stage career in the 1930s, George's creative background provided her with the companionship and emotional support she needed. As Vivian's fame gradually grew, the couple spent years together. However, the demands of a career in entertainment and the strain that ongoing auditions, moves, and unpredictability in the workplace put on any marriage eventually took their toll. In 1940, Vivian's theatrical aspirations started to propel her toward greater chances, and the marriage ended in divorce. Vivian's attitude of independence and self-assurance, which would eventually define her both on and off screen, were shaped by the relationship, even though it did not last. Vivian married actor and director Philip Ober in 1941, the year of her most well-known union. This almost 2-decade-long partnership was both personally and professionally rewarding. Vivian and Philip collaborated on a number of television and theater productions, and it was during their marriage that Vivian attained her most notable role as Ethel Mertz on I Love Lucy. However, there was a lot of strain in their relationship behind the scenes. According to several reports, Ober was domineering and judgmental, and as Vivian gained popularity on American television, his jealousy of her success only grew. Later, friends and coworkers characterized their marriage as extremely taxing, with Vivian experiencing psychological and verbal abuse. She was determined to keep up appearances in spite of the agony, maybe out of loyalty or fear of scandal, at a period when public marital conflict was frowned upon in Hollywood. In 1959, Vivian and Ober divorced after almost 18 years of dating, a choice that changed the course of her life. That marriage's dissolution marked more than just the end of a difficult chapter. It was a freedom. She was able to accept her freedom and emotional health for the first time. When Vivian wed writer and literary agent John Dodds in 1961, 2 years later, she experienced true happiness. Unlike her other marriages, this one was based on affection, respect, and understanding. Dodds respected Vivian not only for her fame, but also for her brilliance, humor, and fortitude. She found the serenity and emotional stability she had long yearned for in their relationship, which was one of camaraderie rather than rivalry. After relocating to Connecticut, they briefly lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Vivian relished a more sedate and contemplative existence away from the limelight of Hollywood. In her senior years, she frequently acknowledged John as the source of her true happiness, characterizing their relationship as one based on close friendship and trust. Up to Vivian's death in 1979, the pair stayed committed to one another. According to reports, Dodds was her pillar of support throughout her protracted fight with cancer. One day, after disclosing a secret that had troubled her for years, Vivian Vance passed away brutally and without warning. She was the adored Ethel Mertz from I Love Lucy, the charming, witty sidekick whose chemistry with Lucille Ball established one of television's most famous collaborations. However, few people ever realized that Vivian carried a weight of emotional suffering, weariness, and contempt beneath her radiant smile and flawless comedic timing. Those closest to her were surprised by her untimely passing following a moment of emotional vulnerability, and her last days were shrouded in mystery. Vivian has always been seen as a solitary, contemplative individual. She appeared vibrant, glamorous, humorous, and always prepared to give a well-timed phrase to the outside world. John Dodds, her spouse, was aware that she would not talk about some aspects of her background. Vivian's health had been deteriorating in the weeks preceding her death, and she appeared to be more introspective than before. She made the decision to unburden herself one evening while sitting peacefully with John in their Belvedere, California, home. She said in a whisper, her hands shaking and tears welling up in her eyes, "There's something I've never told anyone, not even you," as if Vivian knew this revelation would be her last release from years of inner agony. John would later characterize that moment as one of frightening quiet. One of the most challenging partnerships in her career was linked to her secret. Her fierce animosity toward William Foley, her co-star in I Love Lucy. Vivian had kept quiet about how much she hated him for years out of concern for the public's reaction and the show's cherished reputation. "I couldn't stand him," she told John. "It was an endurance struggle every day on that set. My life was awful because of him." No one realized how profoundly it had damaged her emotionally and mentally. But those who were aware of the difficulties behind the scenes were not wholly surprised by the disclosure. Vivian admitted that she felt degraded by Foley's persistent taunts and patronizing demeanor. "He called me names when the cameras weren't rolling," she muttered. "He made cruel jokes about my weight, my looks, and even my age. On camera, I laughed, but on the inside, I wanted to cry." Vivian had remained professional during the I Love Lucy filming. Even when Foley's sharp sarcasm pierced deep, she never let her actual emotions interfere with the production. "I played his wife on television, but off camera, I couldn't stand being near him," she once confided to a close friend. "Every scene we shared was something I dreaded." Her spirit suffered as a result of this emotional tension that was suppressed for years. She was still plagued by those memories after the show. "It's strange," she said to John in their last exchange. "No matter how much time passes, the bitterness still lingers. I wish I had told him how much pain he caused me before he died." She told him this long-kept secret, and Vivian appeared oddly calm. "I feel lighter now, like I can finally breathe," she murmured with a small grin. According to John's later recollection, but the calm was tragically fleeting. Vivian Vance unexpectedly died the very next day. Those closest to her couldn't help but notice something uncannily lyrical about her timing, despite the official reports citing problems from her condition. It seemed as though her spirit was prepared to let go after she had finally released her emotional weight. Hollywood was rocked by her unexpected death, and her co-star and old friend Lucille Ball was crushed. When Lucy heard the news, she grieved hysterically and remarked, "Viv was like my sister. This world wouldn't be the same without her." Lucy had known for years that Vivian and Foley were at odds, but she had never realized how profoundly it had damaged Vivian. She never let on. Later, Lucy claimed that she was too pompous and professional. However, perhaps that was the most painful thing for her. she kept everything to herself. The day before she passed away, Vivian made a confession to her husband that changed the course of her life. It showed the depth of the woman's emotions who had made millions of others laugh. Her story served as a chilling reminder of how celebrities' internal struggles, the unseen scars caused by hurtful remarks and unhealthy relationships, are sometimes concealed by their popularity, even if she was dealing with grief and resentment herself. Ultimately, Vivian Vance's parting words to her husband continue to reverberate with bravery and profound grief. "I just want to be remembered for the laughter," she remarked softly moments before going to bed that night. Not for the hurt. And that's possibly the most exquisite truth of all, that despite the sorrow of her death and the resentment she faced, Vivian Vance will always be known as the person who made millions of people happy while keeping her own suffering hidden. Sadly, disease took Vivian's life too soon. Despite her valiant battle, she was diagnosed with breast cancer in the late 1970s and died on August 17, 1979 in Belvedere, California, at the age of 70. Her passing upset Lucille Ball, who later said that losing Vivian was like losing a piece of herself. The entertainment industry lamented the death of a real trailblazer, a woman whose contributions had delighted millions of people, and whose legacy would live on in the hearts of admirers for many years to come.